Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer at Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dillon Gonzales. I'm the editorial director for GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a Video Addict new release roundup, but we're doing something a little bit different. This is going to be the second time we've done a Oops All Horror Movie edition because it's October and we both love our horror movies. So yeah, I think that this is a fun time to just talk about all the really great horror movie releases. So with that, I will probably kick it off. I'm gonna start with something that I want to get a few out of the way that I really didn't connect with.
Oh boy.
Not to bring that energy to it, but you know, I want to just rip that band-aid right off. So my first title is They Crawl Beneath, and this is from Well Go USA. And
Yeah.
have you seen this?
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen it.
So yeah, I was kind of yeah, I love creature features, so I was really excited for this one. And They Crawl Beneath is just like Tremors, only minus the charm, minus the world building, and really fun characters. um, yeah, it's sort of like I think, and since you've seen this, please chime in. But it very much felt like a Lifetime movie, like
Yes.
wrapped in a creature feature.
Mhm.
But I will say, and I'm not dogging on Lifetime movies, but it just had that very soap opera-y sort of flavor to it. Like I was very disengaged with the whole like I'm a good cop, but my life's kind of shit right now, and I got wife problems and blah blah blah. I'm like, I don't care.
Mhm.
Like, um, so yeah, I really wasn't feeling it, and I was kind of hoping that, like, even with Lifetime movies, I feel like I give them sometimes a pass because they sort of know what it is, and they sort of lean into the camp value.
Mhm.
However, this is very self-serious, and it's just very aimless, and it kind of reminded me of like maybe a sci-fi original film. But again, even those kind of have a level of self-awareness that this didn't lack. And like the acting is really bad.
Mhm.
Um, what did you think? Was pretty similar?
Yeah, I'm pretty right there with you. It's just I will say there are a few elements I did like. I think I do like that they went for more practical creature effects. Like I will give it that. I mean, they're still not great, but like didn't try to do too much in the realm of like bad CGI.
Yeah.
But uh, I don't know. It really for a film like this, it didn't even really deliver on the creature stuff enough, and it had a really small sense of scale, and not in like a good way. Like, ooh, this is contained and compact. It was just like for over half the movie, it seemed like that guy was stuck underneath that vehicle, and I was just like, where are we going with this with this tale? Like, you need to like, I know like you have to have stakes and stuff, but like he was just there for a long time in like a single location, and you're just like, all right, we need to move this along. And it wasn't a long movie, but it felt very long.
Yeah. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Again, I think if it had more compelling characters, I wouldn't have maybe minded so much of the slow burn. And again, it never really like paid anything off, I think, in a really like satisfying way. It just felt like a bunch of tropes stitched together into like a creature feature. But this is a nice release. It is bare bones, but I think it looks really good.
Mhm.
I know it kind of would have been interesting to maybe get like a commentary track or like an interview to get some sort of context again behind some of these choices, but we don't get that here. But it being a newer movie, it does look pretty good. Again, it's certainly not the most dynamically shot, colorful movie, but what we do get really does pop nicely. Yeah, it's fine. I would say still check it out, but keep your expectations like very low.
Yeah, I think out of everything I've seen on my list and knowing some of what you're covering, I think it's probably my least favorite thing that we're talking about today. But
Mm.
I guess we'll see if anything else comes up and tops. um, since you started off with like a bad one, I want to like correct course, and I want to talk about a legit good movie. And I think this is probably one that a lot of horror fans are really excited about. This is The Return of the Living
Mm.
Dead on 4K Ultra HD from Screen Factory. And I love this original artwork. This is pretty
Yeah.
amazing. It's classic, and so I think it has no reversible cover art. Interesting. Usually they do, but you have the 4K disc. You have the new scan on Blu-ray, and then just a whole disc for special features, which is pretty fun. There, yeah. So I think anyone who had the previous Scream Factory Collector's Edition, they'll find that this release is pretty similar in terms of like bonus features and all that type of stuff, which I'll get into a little bit. But this comes from a new 4K scan of the original camera negative, and it comes in Dolby Vision. And this looks really great. I'll talk about my history with this movie in a little bit, but this looks really, really great. It's not a title I'm like super familiar with, but from what I could tell, it like the grain is really well resolved. It has nice, like complex colors that really pop in Dolby Vision, and it sticks with I'm pretty sure they have an option of a DTS 5.1 and 2.0 like stereo track. So you have a couple different audio options. No new Atmos track, but I think it sounds good for what it's accomplishing with the original audio tracks. And it comes loaded with special features. It comes with 4 audio commentary tracks.
Nice.
So you'll probably learn everything you want to know about this movie just from different perspectives. The Blu-ray in this is also comes from the new 4K scan, so it's not the same as the old Blu-ray, but it does carry over the same special features. There's a 2-hour documentary on this movie on this bonus disc. There is several featurettes, including one on like 80s horror movies, the visual effects, the music in the film. There's a location tour. There's a entire extended like work print version of the movie that I believe is in standard definition. So it's a little bit shoddy and not the best looking, but if you want some of the like additional footage that is missing from the theatrical cut, you have that as an option just for like hardcore fans who appreciate that. There's a ton of special features. It's loaded. Like I said, they have an entire separate disc dedicated to special features. It's hard in terms of the movie itself. I know a lot of people really love this movie. I have a complicated history with this movie because I rented this when I was way too young to like really appreciate it. I was probably like 11 or so, and I put this on, and I made it about like 20 minutes into the movie. It was like I think it was about right when the zombies start coming out of the ground, and I don't know. It was very assaultive to me because I expected like a normal zombie movie, but this is like a punk rock zombie movie, and especially the first 20 minutes with like all the punks and like in the cemeteries, and like I mean, I'm sure as like a young kid I could have appreciated if like the naked lady dancing on tombstones and stuff, but still it was very abrasive, and I don't know, I wasn't clicking with it, so I never went back to the movie because I was like, that movie's kind of odd for me. So but now I finally got to revisit it after all these years. I have much more mature like horror knowledge, and like coming at it now, it's still a very like punk rock movie and like in your face, which is I think a lot of the fun about this movie. It is like a zombie movie, but it's like it has a lot of really like dark odd humor. It has like some really interesting characters. It's just it just has a personality all of its own. And I know the sequels and stuff, like at least the second one is also like highly regarded, which now I'm interested to check that one out as well. So I know a lot of like horror fans are probably hating me that I got an advanced copy and I'm not even like a huge like fan of this movie, but I did gain a new appreciation because it's a really fun, like dark, wild movie. And I really love a lot of like the special effects work, like the zombie that they have like trapped in the basement for most of the movie. Like some of that special effects work is really insane. Like what they were able to accomplish, it's really cool. And just the dark places and even like the social satire ingrained in this, like the whole overarching like I won't give away the ending, but the ending is really, I think, very clever how they kind of wrap everything up. This was just a really, like, I'm glad I got to see this movie with fresh eyes again, because I gained a new appreciation. It's a really fun movie. And I know I'm not saying anything to like new to horror fans, but like I'm saying, like, I'm a convert. I think it's a lot of fun. It's a really good release.
Nice. It's pretty fantastic, and I think that we kind of forget that the guy that wrote and directed this also wrote Alien,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, and also he worked on Dark Star, which was a early John Carpenter film, which Dan O'Bannon wrote. Or no, Carpenter wrote Dark Star, but Dan O'Bannon, I guess, wrote the story.
Okay.
So nobody at me. I corrected myself. He,
Yeah.
but
They
yeah.
paused the video right when you said that to type out the stuff. Like,
But yeah, no, it's great. I'm very excited to hear that. That seems like it's very much worth an upgrade. I also want to pick something good, so we can
thank goodness.
keep this positivity running, and that is one that I was really excited about, and that is Scream 2 from
Mhm.
Paramount. And I did a unboxing video for this, but we can check it out. The case is really nice. I really like the details here. Let's open it up, and it's the inside. That will have a digital copy. It's not in there now. And let me pop the discs out really quick so you can see. And
Nice.
so, yeah, so I know this movie's pretty old, but I will keep this spoiler free, just, on the off chance of somebody maybe not seeing this. It's great. It's one of my favorite horror sequels, if I'm being honest. I think it's really fun. I like how with Wes Craven, his sequel track record prior to this had been kind of spotty, but I think like him pairing again with Kevin Williamson is fantastic. And they do put a lot of love and energy into what I think could easily have been like a cash grab movie. Not to mention, I think this had a pretty notoriously fast turnaround. Like
Yeah.
I think it was maybe like in theaters less than a year.
Yeah.
Since the original. So that's kind of amazing because usually when you have such a fast turnaround like that, it's um, probably rushed and not very good.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is great. And I really like how this, of course, does a really clever thing where it establishes the fictional movie within the movie Stab. And yeah, I know there's debates of whether or not that's getting old, as a plot device in the later movies, but I still think it's awesome. Like that cold open is maybe one of the best cold opens, sans the original. And I really like how, Scream has sort of one of the things you expect is a really elaborate, fun cold open like that. So this really sort of establishes, that being a ongoing thing that the franchise does. And again, it's really clever. It's interesting because when I rewatched this, it had been a little while, and I know, and again, I won't say who it is, but there's been a lot of debates whether or not the killer reveal is like satisfying, but rewatching it, I actually think that I think so. If I'm remembering this correctly, it was originally supposed to be somebody else, but it got leaked online, so they had to quick change it. And it's interesting because rewatching it, I feel like the killer is set up from the very first scene. Like there are like little hints, like, and then there's just like little clues throughout. So I think, it is nicely set up. And again, I won't say who the killer is, but this person is sort of an icon, and you know, if you know, you know. So yeah, there's no new features. This does look great. I think like the sequel always kind of looked so-so on home video. But you can definitely tell that the 4K looks a lot nicer. It looks a lot more fresh. Like the colors are a little bit more vibrant. I think like in the past home videos, they've looked a little bit like dull in places. So I think that this really kind of brings a lot of new life into the film. So it looks great, sounds great. Again, I kind of wished they would have maybe put something new for fans, but I'm just happy to have it in 4K. And I think we only need 3 and 4 until we have all of them on 4K, so that's exciting. So I have no doubt that like the 4K of threes may be coming out next year, hopefully. So yeah, really great, and I think it is very much worth picking up. So there is a regular non-steelbook edition, which is a little bit less expensive, and if and I'm also somebody that like you have them all lined up, and like OCD, they have to all look sort of the same. So I will link the this edition and the regular edition, which I believe is on sale right now on Amazon. So
Nice. Speaking of the OCD, like I now have that steel book, but the first one's in a regular keep case. So like it kind of drives. I'm like,
same.
ooh, they don't match. They don't match. But I'll live. But still, oh well. But I watched this last week with Jessica, and it had been years. She had never seen it before, and it'd been years since I'd seen it. So the killer reveal was fresh for me, and I thought it did well, and it was fun. The whole movie was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, it's again, I really like how they're like, okay, we're gonna take the template of horror sequels, and not only that, but like slasher set in universities. And I really liked how Randy like rambled off like 5 different college-based slashers,
Yeah.
which I've seen all of those, probably own all of those. So
Yeah. Yeah. I moving on to our next horror offering. This is going back a little ways. I think this is the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. We'll just say that. It might be the 70s. This is a terror circus from Code Red and Kino Classics. I really like this cover art. I think that's a lot of fun. I like kind of minimalist cover art sometimes just because it looks cool. There's another really cool cover art that I'll talk about later, but that's a tease. No reversible cover art, it's just the white, but you do have your disc art in here. I had never heard of this until Kino had announced that they were putting this out with Code Red. But I enjoyed it. I think it's a fun little movie. It's a very simple plot. It's just so these girls are on kind of like a cross country road trip. I think they're heading to California, and they along the way they're kind of like in a desert area. I think it's probably like Arizona or Nevada or somewhere in there. And they they find themselves like kind of broken down in the middle of the desert. A gentleman comes after they've slept in their car overnight to kind of help them out, offers them a ride, takes them back to his kind of like little farm. And of course, he's a little bit of a psycho, and he chains them up in his barn where he has a bunch of other women chained up. And the titular terror circus is just basically him treating them as like animals and like members of his little circus that he's kind of like putting on for like his own amusement. And it's basically a story of like these women trying to like plan and break free and like somehow get away from this maniac who has like imprisoned all of them. And he of course has his own like mental issues going on and mommy issues and all that stuff. All these horror people have mommy issues. It's just part of the genre. So that's the basic conceit. It's not like the most inventive or action packed, but I think it's well done for what like the limited like narrative it's trying to pull off. There's like scenes of like women almost getting away, and then like something happens and doesn't lead to good things for them, or women like very nearly freeing themselves, and then of course like he walks up behind them, and it just that kind of like general unease and stuff. It's not extremely gory, but it has some interesting like death moments, I'll just say that. It Like I said, it's not reinventing the wheel. It's just like kind of like a solidly made, like good, not great, but like good horror movie. It kind of reminded me tonally, kind of aesthetically, of The Hills Have Eyes. It's just kind of like a little bit grimy, a little like nasty, and if you're in that kind of mood, I think it really hits the spot. This new Blu-ray, I don't think it's sourced from like a new 2K or 4K scan, but I think the source they use is pretty solid. There's still some light like specks of damage and stuff, and occasional like lines and everything. So it's not like pristine by any means, but for certain like horror movies of this time, I've seen a lot worse. I know some of these like original elements aren't always in the best shape, especially with these like kind of more low rent titles. But I think it looks good. I think a lot of horror fans will like be kind of satisfied with that kind of baseline that they're given. It sounds pretty good. There's not much in the way of like fluctuation in volume or anything like that. And there is one archive, or yeah, I think it's an archival featurette with some of the cast and crew that runs about 25 minutes of interviews. So there is at least a little like some supplements. It's not extensive, but it's pretty decent. So Terror Circus, it's good for what it's trying to do. Like I said, not reinventing the wheel, but it's solid.
Yeah, I remember pretty much liking this movie. I remember its alternate title more, which is The Barn of the Naked Dead.
Oh wow.
That's why I was like kind of hoping it maybe had like reversible art with that title on it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that is a I think the title I like's a little bit more catchier, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no, that sounds good. I know, like I said, I've seen it, but it's been a while, so that might be one that I should revisit. So while we're sticking with Kino, and this one's a Scorpion releasing, and that is Dr. Death. And wow, this really is something. So I kind of thought that this was like going in, I just sort of thought this was going to be like a doctor like killing people. Maybe it was going to be like a Dr. Kevorkian situation. You know, you don't really know. You just see this guy that's a little Dracula-ish. And this guy's very 70s. Like look at this. This is
Yeah.
perfection. So surprisingly though, it's actually a little bit, and I don't want to say more complex because I feel like that's maybe giving this a little bit too much credit, but I will say it does have a little bit more going on too, than just a doctor killing people. Like I don't even know if he's really a doctor. But anyways, it's more about soul transplants. And I know I tweeted something to this effect last night, but it really very much felt like an H.D. Lewis movie, only with maybe a slightly bigger budget. Like it's certainly not as low rent as H.D. Lewis movie, which again, not a criticism. I love his movies. You can see that big box thing behind me. But yeah, so the plot is a little bit all over the place, but it was really interesting because they do establish some kind of world building where this guy's lived for centuries. He's got this amulet that will allow him to transfer his soul into another body so he can keep living. But being the good capitalist he is, he offers this service to other people for for probably a pretty hefty fee. And there is this I guess he's a doctor and he loses his wife and he's like really upset and he's like, oh my gosh, I want to bring her back. And the guy's like, I can't bring her back, but I can like transfer another soul into her body and she'll be like, I mean, they sort of do establish that because it's a different soul, it will not be like that same person, like it will have a different personality. So I credit where it's due. They did think a little bit about the mechanics of this, which I appreciate because I know other movies would have just ignored that component, but I want to give it a little bit of credit. It does like think a little bit about what it's trying to say, and it does have a degree of like self-awareness of like the jokes. There's a little bit of some meta humor. Um, like a woman's watching this scary movie, and the stuff that's happening is sort of like paralleling what she's watching, and like the boyfriend's like, you shouldn't be watching scary movies, and she ends up getting killed, but he thinks that she's just freaking out because of this movie. But anyways, um so yeah, it's kind of fun. This I really like it had a really wonderfully how do I want to put it, like ironic and kind of humorous ending, which I won't spoil. Which again, I think I will say that for as sort of aimless and sort of shaggy as the plot kind of is, it is very much aware of its own sort of absurdity, and I appreciate that. So I enjoyed it. I think I would actually would watch this again. It's one of those movies. I'll tell you this. It's one of those movies that you want to get a group of friends together to watch,
Yeah.
and I think you would have a really good time. So this does have so this is from a 2015 HD master, and it looks actually really good. And it does have some nice features. And yeah, it's a good time. And I again I like the fact that this wasn't just dumped out. I guess I did this in reverse order, but here is there's no reversible art, which is a little bit of a bummer, but I mean, look at that disc art though. Come on, look at that. That's great.
Yeah, 70s.
Yeah, it is yeah, it is painfully retro. Which I love. It's great. It is a movie that really tries hard, but does have a lot of fun with its own premise, and I appreciate that. I mean, that is sort of what I think this movie was lacking.
Yeah.
So to tie it back with that, yeah, it's Dr. Death. It's fun. It was a fun discovery that had not really been on my radar, but I think it's a good time.
Can I tell you one part of that movie that made me laugh? So it's whenever the doctor, he's explaining kind of who he is and like how he's lived like throughout the centuries basically, and like taking on different forms throughout his existence. And he just, it's showing him like walking and like becoming different people, and it's just a series of white people. And I was just like, I wonder if he'll ever be anything besides a white man. And then it does like change him into like, I knew what it is to be a lady. and
Uh-huh.
and like a person of color and stuff. And I was just like, okay, they are acknowledging that he can be something besides a white man. But it was amusing because there's just like 5 or 6 white men in a row. I was just like,
Yeah.
he's just never going to be anything different.
And then it's also funny because like when you talk about him being a woman, he's like, but thankfully I found another body. Like I was like, wow, okay, so
Yeah.
like yeah, but no, yeah, it
For
is
this time period, they did the best they could. But like, I mean,
yeah.
now it would be cringeworthy. But like,
Yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of cringe, there is one moment where he's very much queer coded character that's like, I want to be in that lady's body.
oh
And
yeah.
I was like, and of course, because he has like the most stereotypical affectation
Mhm.
possible. I was like, really, movie? But I mean, it was 1973. What are you gonna do? They like
Yeah.
I appreciated that they at least did not use any like slurs, so I was happy for
Yeah.
that.
Small victories for us.
Yeah.
Moving on, I'm going to a more modern horror movie. This came out earlier this year. It is billed as a Shudder original, so some of you may have seen it. This is The Twin from RLJE.
Mm.
This one, it's pretty good. I enjoyed it all right. It's no reversible cover art. It has this disc art, and yeah, basic premise of this. It stars Teresa Palmer, who I really liked and things. I think she was the lead in Warm Bodies, if I remember correctly, which is a movie I really like. But so the premise is at the beginning of the movie, you kind of see a brief flash of a car wreck, and you learn that this mother and her 2 sons got in a car wreck. The sons were twins, and one of them had died. So this is a movie basically of grief. The family, to try to get away from their grief, it's like the mother, the son, and her husband. They move back to, I believe, Ireland, like a small town in Ireland where he's from, to try to kind of get away from their grief and try to like rebuild their lives in the wake of this tragedy. But when they move to this town, kind of creepy things start happening, and you sort of start to believe that and she starts to believe that her son's twin is like returning and kind of haunting the place, but like she also really misses him, so kind of wants to like figure out what's going on and figure out if like her son has returned. But also at the same time, her husband starts to act really weird, and the town itself is very like really weird. It's kind of almost like Rosemary's Baby esque, where like you kind of feel like there's a conspiracy theory going on around her. And it's kind of a mixture of like that small town eeriness of like Baby or The Wicker Man mixed with like a ghost story of like loss and grief. And this leads up to an ending. I won't give away the ending, obviously, but I it's kind of, you can kind of see it coming, but then what they end up doing with it, it was satisfying in kind of a dark way. Like it works. It's I don't know. I kind of wrestle with the ending. It's kind of like it is straightforward, but it's fine for what it is. It's not like an amazing movie, but it's a really solid movie. There's some like unsettling things. There's not any deeply horrific things. There weren't any things that made like a shiver run up my spine or maybe go, oh shit. But it's just kind of like a general atmosphere of uneasiness. There's some creepy characters. There's some like good like supporting characters who like fulfill their roles well, as like the kooky old lady who like kind of sees through the town's bullshit, that type of like character. There's one of those in there. She does the role really well. There's some reveals in this movie that like are pretty okay. They're decent. Um, so overall, I'd say I would give this movie like a pass. It's good, but it's not like the best. If you're like browsing through Shudder and you're in the mood for like this type of movie, it's okay. The Blu-ray is also good. It has like a nice transfer. It has like a 8-minute featurette that talks about like the making of the movie. So nothing too in depth, but it's solid. So if you're a fan of Teresa Palmer, if you're a fan of like that kind of like small town creepiness / ghost story, The Twin, it's okay. Not the best, but it's not. I've seen far worse. It's fine.
Nice. Yeah, that I as you were describing it, I was trying to think if I've seen it because it sounds really familiar, but there was like I feel like I've sort of marathon a lot of movies that had that similar sort of like
Yeah.
setup. So
Mhm.
all of that kind of blurs together, which might say something about the movie itself. But
Yeah.
um, my next one is I'm going to stay with Kino here with their studio classics, and it would not be October without some Vincent Price. So we got the Oblong Box, and here is the back. Now, I believe this was everything ported over from the 2015 release, and I believe this is also the same transfer. So slipcover and inside no reversible art, just a disc. And yeah, this is a nice re-release if you missed out on the 2015 release. The movie itself, I'm a little bit divided on. So I really like the Vincent Price, Edgar Allan Poe, Roger Corman films. I think that they're probably some of the best, maybe Vincent Price movies, full stop. Like Mask of the Red Death is amazing.
Mhm.
But here, Roger Corman doesn't write or direct. It is Gordon Hessler. And he also did a few other Price movies like Cry of the Banshee and Scream Again. He did another horror movie. I don't think Vincent Price is in this, but it's the Murders in the Rue Morgue, like the
Mhm.
slightly updated version of that, which I believe is out of print right now from Scream Factory. But anyways, um, Hessler, I think, does a really good job at crafting a really solid period horror film. And it is moody. It does have plenty of atmosphere. I would just say though, like Corman's stuff has sort of, I mean, especially like his Edgar Allan Poe adaptations have a timelessness and leanness about them that I don't really feel like this has. And that's kind of what brings me to my biggest issue with this thing is like the plot's not terrible by any means, but it definitely isn't as focused as you'd want it to be. And Christopher Lee is like second build here, but like he doesn't really have like a huge like part in this. Like he is of course in it, but he's not like he didn't factor into it as largely as I kind of thought he would. Without spoiling anything. But yeah, I will say also it is very, very cringy when it comes to its portrayal of African American people and its racial politics are very yikes at times. So yeah, like they never really like say any like pejoratives, but there's like things that they say that are like still like really cringy. I'll just say that. But yeah, so fair warning if that stuff is triggering, and I completely understand if it is, this might be one to skip. Because like the very first scene is a tribal ritual like like I guess they're from Africa, but like it's very Hollywood version of like what something like that would be. So it's unfortunate, but if you can kind of like power past that, it's not a bad movie. It is pretty engaging. There is a mystery, with this like Vincent Price has this like twin who's like runs amok and he's like the black sheep, but they keep enough held back where it is engaging, like that mystery of like where they're gonna take this. And it does sort of have a cool shocker ending. It's not incredibly shocking, but it's kind of a cool thing. Have you seen this?
I have not. No.
Um, yeah, so I won't give it away, but like it is kind of a neat like thing that they do. But it's all right. Like I said, I'm a little more partial to the Corman stuff. But Vincent Price is great. Oh my gosh, he's always worth watching, and I think he really thrives in a period kind of film like this. So it does have a lot of good stuff going for it. It's just not really, it didn't connect with me that great. It looks fine. I believe I tried to find if this was a new transfer. I believe it's just a reusing the 2015 one, which is really solid. So that's, you know, good news. There is a little bit of roughness, and there is a little bit of heavy grain, but it's never super distracting. And overall, it has a really nice detail. You know, this does have a good production value, so you know that I think is where a really nice like print like this like is a good thing. So yeah, I think it's worth checking out. Again, it didn't really connect with me fully, but you know, it's fine. And Vincent Price is always a win. So
Absolutely, yeah. I'm a big fan of like pretty much all those Poe adaptations, so I am interested to check it out. I got the disc, the old disc, before right during its like uh going out of print like
mm.
section like last year, and then they announced this with the new slipcover, and I was like, of course. But I couldn't justify upgrading just for a slipcover, so I'll keep my old slipless copy and be happy with it. My next release, this one was a really fun discovery. I had a lot of fun with this one. This is from Synapse Films, and that is Satan's Little Helper,
Mm.
which isn't exactly what I thought it would be whenever I heard the title, but because I just went in blind without reading the description. But once I figured out what it was, I had a lot of fun with it. This does have reversible cover art, and here is the original artwork. This is a direct-to-video film from 2004, I believe, and this comes from I know it comes from a fairly well-known director, Jeff Lieberman.
Lieberman, yep.
Yeah, who did Blue Sunshine and Squirm, and so checking this one out. Oh wait, let me finish putting this back in and not ripping the cover art, because this show is not worth ripping. This so here's the disc artwork, which is fun. Just
the cutie,
the demon peeking around. So yeah, this one, what it's actually about is, have you seen this?
Oh yeah,
Oh, yeah. It's about this dumbass little kid who is like obsessed with his sister, and she's like coming home from college, and he's really excited to go trick-or-treating with her. And he's also been obsessed with this new video game called Satan's Little Helper, where basically the kid plays like Satan's Little Helper, who helps Satan cause mischief around town. So he's like completely immersed in that video game world. His sister comes home, brings like a new boyfriend, and like through his like weird little kid brain, he gets like super jealous, and he decides he needs to find Satan and like help and convince him to kill his sister's boyfriend. And so he goes off to be Satan's Little Helper. Conveniently, he finds a person who's already in the neighborhood dressed up who is killing people, and he just kind of like lets this kid, like he like takes him under his wing, never says a word, but it just like kind of like this kid he believes he's just like this in like basically a video game, and he just helps Satan go around killing everyone in his neighborhood. And it's bizarre and really like darkly funny. It's a good time just because this kid is so freaking stupid. Like he has some of like the most like bizarre line readings and like facial features and just kid brain stuff. It just really made me laugh a lot. I like seeing Catherine Winnick as like the sister who comes home. I really like her. She was on Vikings for a long time. She's now on a show called Big Sky. She plays like the beautiful young heroine in this one, and she does a good job like for that type of like direct video like acting, because also this has Amanda Plummer, I believe her name is, from Pulp Fiction, who played Honey Bunny. So the acting's actually pretty decent for like everything is much better than you would expect from like knowing that this is like a direct to video horror movie. It's like the some of the special effects are really gnarly, really gory, and like they some of like the boundaries they push, I was kind of shocked, but like gleefully shocked of just like, ooh, that's dark. I like that. Like they just it was a lot of fun. And it like it is very funny, but it also like has like a lot of like dark violence, which is done really well. So I think it balances the tones really well in a way that I don't know. I just really responded to it. I didn't know anything about this movie, and it just surprised me, and I really liked it. This comes from this. I believe it comes from like an older master, but it looks fantastic for the most part. There's like one scene at the beginning whenever the sister first comes home. There's like a reverse shot of her brother that looks like maybe it was taken from a lower source element because it's kind of like grainy and weird. And there's like maybe like 30 seconds of that, but pretty much the rest of the transfer looks really nice and vibrant and like surprisingly good, like bright colors, and just not like a lot of damage or anything like that. So the transfer is really good. It comes with a new audio commentary from the director, and like some behind the scenes featurettes and all that type of stuff. So it's there's like a making of documentary as well. So it's a pretty solid release. Synapse, they did a really nice job with this. I I was at the time that this was released, I wasn't as hardcore into horror as I am now. I know I'm still not to like your level or anything. You read a book about it, but I missed a lot of this like direct to video horror. So I like that a lot of these like indie boutique labels are bringing some of these like forgotten gems and bringing it back out with like a really great release. So this was one I'm really glad that I found. Satan's Little Helper. It's delightful. I love it.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun, and this was one I actually like pre-ordered. I was so excited for. And yeah, it is I really liked it, but my one thing is I kind of wish that like this they just would have made this kid just straight up evil because I know
Instead
at
of
a
just
certain
dumb.
yeah, like at a certain point he's like, "Oh no, what did I do?" And I'm like, "Dude, come on. Like you're facilitating these murders like for
Yeah.
real." So I kind of wish like, and I actually this is sort of a good time, but I was maybe possibly going to be talking to Jeff Lieberman coming up here soon.
Oh, cool.
And I would love to sort of know like if he ever intended that kid to just, like he I guess you could call that an arc for him where he's like had a sudden realization of this was like bad.
Yeah.
I wish they would have just like went all in on that and the kid's just an evil dickhead and you know but it's fun. It is a lot of fun. Again, I pre-ordered it because I love this movie so much and I was so excited that it is getting a new release. So that is pretty awesome that it has some new stuff in it and you said it like looks pretty good. So
Oh yeah, it looks
I am
really good. Yeah.
I, I am definitely very excited. So my next title is one that it, it I don't know. Are you a big Jess Franco fan or do you know like much about his
I know enough about him to know that I would not be a big Jeff Franco fan.
yeah. So okay, so my next title is The Other Side of the Mirror, and this comes from Mondo Macabro, and let's take a look at this here. We do get some nice features. No reversible art. I know if you get the limited edition, like red cover, it does have a booklet, but this is the standard edition. Which is a little bit more like price points a little bit better, but anyways, yeah, so I kind of run hot and cold with this director, but his like highs are really high and I think his lows are pretty low for me. But
Yeah.
there is a big legion of fans that like they kind of love everything that he does, and that's fine. Like I definitely have directors where I enjoy even their lesser works. So this is nice because this obscure film from Franco, is making its U.S. Blu-ray premiere, and it's in its uncut form. And I will say the first act is pretty good. It's very moody. It definitely has that signature strange vibe and feeling that his movies usually always have. But then it really starts to drag. And as somebody that really doesn't mind a slower pace, sort of Euro trashy movie, I still found it to be a pretty challenging watch. I think it actually took me a couple times to get through the whole thing. And there's this being a Franco film, he definitely loves his high art, very stylish set pieces, naked women galore. There's lots and lots of nudity. So if you are into that, this is your kind of movie. Um and I mean that's fine. It's not really my thing, but I we don't judge here, so but yeah, I don't know. It's just very slow and tedious. There are a lot of long drawn out scenes that, in my opinion, really don't add to the overall plot. Um, I will say it was interesting because there is a filmmaker in this movie, so there's definitely sort of a meta aspect to it that I found intriguing. But overall, it didn't really connect with me, and it was interesting because I wrote my review and then I was checking out what other people said, and it's so interesting because you do have a wide range where it's like you have the devotees that love this, that finds it very interesting and stylish and cool, and then other ones like me where I just kind of felt like it was very boring to be blunt.
Yeah.
But if you are a fan of his films, this looks great. And Mondo always really comes to play when it comes to their releases. So this comes from a brand new 4K transfer. And again, it does have a 56-minute interview with Stephen Thrower. It has a commentary track that, again, I think really adds a lot of nice context to understand this film, and again some of the meta aspects of it. But yeah, it just wasn't really for me, but that's okay. I know that I'm excited that this is out for hardcore fans of his films. So again, this is the first time this has been on Blu-ray in the US, so that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that sounds like a good release for his fans. Being not as big of a fan from what I've seen, I'll probably pass, but I'm glad that it was released for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Moving on, I'm doing back-to-back Synapse Films releases, and this is the new Blu-ray release of The Kindred,
Mm.
which this is one of those situations. Like I've talked about a few Synapse releases like this, like uh, uh, not the room, zombies of the Rumor, no, something,
Manchester.
yeah, Manchester of the yeah, Living Dead or whatever, and most recently Massacre at Central High, where I believe Synapse released these as steel books a couple years ago, and now they're finally getting around to releasing them as Blu-rays. So this is not new to everyone, but this is new to me. This is the standard edition. And this is a bizarre film, but it's interesting and fun. It's a creature feature. It involves like a scientist who learned his mother is dying, and he kind of she has the secret where she like was doing some experiments and trying to basically making a brother for him, but the brother was like this weird monstrous creature that lived in her basement, and he knew nothing about it. His mom passed away, and he goes to her house to settle her affairs, and then kind of learns about some of the weirdness that she had going on, and eventually learns about his brother. The brother is like a weird, like lizard-like uh, practical effects monster. This is very like, but like bottom barrel creature feature. Like you can tell that it wasn't a large budget, but that's kind of the charm of the movie, that you could get uh um this like monster that's like kind of like not believable, but then also it's kind of like you love that it looks so kind of ratty and like gross and stuff. It's just, it's part of the whole aesthetic of the film. um Overall, like, and also this is mostly a single location, like at their little like house and cabin. There's a few other settings, but they do try to keep this kind of like contained. Outside of, they do have like a really like interesting fiery crash at the very beginning of this movie, which I was like, oh, there goes their special effects budget. Uh Overall, the pacing of this is pretty well. It's like 93 minutes long, so like it goes by pretty quickly. It doesn't drag things out. This is a, I believe this is the uncut version of the film, because it says a 4K. It's a 4K remaster of the unrated version. So I don't know what the differences would be, but this is like uncut, so I always appreciate that. The acting is passable, not great, passable, passable. This whole film is kind of like low rent but fun, which is, I can get behind that. Like if they're, like you said, if they're self-aware, they know that this is kind of like a stupid creature feature, and no one seems to be treating it as high art. I appreciate that. They're like giving me what I want. Um, this is also pretty good with comment or special features. They have a commentary track. They have a 52-minute documentary. They have some featurettes on like the creation of the creature itself. So you have a couple different options here. You have a 5.1 surround mix, or along with the 2.0 theatrical mix, like the mono mix. And yeah, just a lot of really solid special features. So if you're a fan of this film, Synapse did you proud. You don't have to, if you missed out on the Steelbook or you just want a standard edition, it's out now. So if you're in for kind of like cheesy creature features, the Kindred, it does the job.
Nice. I forget, did you say that had a booklet?
This does not
Or
have
is
a
it
booklet. It has
it's just the
the standard,
catalog?
the Synapse Films catalog. Yeah.
Um, yeah, we so it was funny because Andre, who writes for Geek Vibes and also edits videos for us, we had a watch along on Mother's Day of mother themed movies, and this was one of those. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, so that was one of the yeah, it was fun. I don't, it's one of those I don't know if I would probably watch again, but it was, yeah, it was all right.
Yeah.
So I don't know, a good transition into my next title. So we have Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Mm.
And this case is really nice. This was really exciting because there's a spine. I had not owned this on 4K. Um and so this doesn't have any images on the inside, you can see. So yeah, I was really excited because I only had this on Blu-ray. The movie itself, I mean, I felt like probably everybody's kind of seen this at this point, but I really think it is maybe maybe not the most faithful adaptation of Dracula, but it gets really close. Like I think it does a really interesting thing where it tries to adapt it in the style how it was written, which is of course like diary entries and like memos and different like correspondences and stuff. So they do try to sort of incorporate that visually. And speaking of, this is one of the most gorgeous looking horror movies this side of Suspiria. I mean, it really is just a uh, maybe even sensory overload of beautiful imagery. mixed with this grotesque horror, which I love. I believe this won the Oscar for Best Costume. I can't recall if it won anything else, but yeah, it just looks beautiful. The acting is pretty good. I will say, I hate saying this because we all love Keanu Reeves, and yes, he is like the best, but boy, he is really something as Jonathan Harker in this film. Um, and I again, it pains me to say this, but it almost sort of ruins the movie for me. Because his accent is so bad. I kind of just wish they would have just let him not use an accent. I would have been just
Yeah.
completely fine. Maybe, they were worried about like that not being realistic, but I'm like, it's kind of better than just like this really bad whatever English accent this is supposed to be. But you have Gary Oldman. I think the problem also is when he's acting with Gary Oldman, like you can really see when you have one really strong actor and somebody that is maybe like a really great personality, but maybe acting wise isn't like to that pedigree. And
Yeah.
that sounds like I'm being so shitty to Keanu, and I'm not, because I do really love him, but yeah, it's something. But I love it. I think it's really smart in how they do deviate from the novel, which is they recontextualize it into a gothic romance, which again I think is smart when you're doing an adaptation for film. It gives it a little bit more texture and stakes, wooden stakes even. But yeah, but I love it. I think it's so great. I think anytime you have Anthony Hopkins just going full ham, and oh my god, it's this was a lot of fun to revisit.
Yeah.
The 4K, I believe, I did a little research, and I believe that this is the same 4K from a few years ago, just like re-released. And that's a good thing because it looks really fantastic.
Sorry, my dog's trying to weigh in,
Oh.
and yeah, he's saying this is actually a new 4K disc, but it has Dolby Vision and updated subtitles to match the theatrical subtitles. Okay, I got you. Okay, we're good.
No, that's good to know because like I said, I did not previously own the 4K, so that's nice that we have some updated stuff on it. But yeah, it looks great. I mean, again, it sounds really awesome. I was really happy with just again, this is such a visually sumptuous movie that like the colors really pop. The detail in the sets and the production design and the costumes. Again, the costumes won an Oscar, so like literally Oscar worthy. So yeah, it was pretty great. This was a lot of fun. I think this is sort of like a really must watch around Halloween time, especially.
Yeah, this was my first time watching it. I had owned the Blu-ray previously, never got around to it, but I finally got around to watching this. And while I do agree about Keanu, love him, but he is, I don't think we're the first to say he's miscast. It is a very visually striking movie. And I think Coppola did a really good job with this adaptation for sure.
Yeah, I think again, I think that I don't know, have you read the book?
I have not.
The book, it's funny because the book's interesting, but it's very dry in places. And I think maybe that's just like it's sort of time period. I know it's like 100+ pages till you even get to Castle Dracula, but I do really like I said, they do a smart way of sort of making it a little bit more engaging because sometimes the novel is a little bit drier. So I think it's faithful, but then I think that they sort of like do make things narratively pop a little bit more.
Yeah. I'll maybe I'll get around to reading the novel one of these days. I know it's a classic, so I'll see the differences and see
Yeah.
how they what they did with it. My next release comes from Code Red and Kino Classics, and that is Screams of a Winter Night, which this is the other cover art that I was talking about that I really like. This is really, really cool in my opinion. I think it's like minimalistic and fun, and got our main characters here. And yes, let's see. So same artwork. Does it have double-sided? It does not. But you do get the same kind of standard art on the disc. And so yeah, I once again was not familiar with this before Kino and Code Red announced this. But I had a decent amount of fun with this. I think it could be better, but I can tell it's kind of like more of a low budget effort, and I'll try not to hold it against that. So this is kind of plays out like an anthology film. This is about like a group of friends who go off into like a cabin that's like kind of known to be haunted. You get the standard going up to a gas station, and then like the gas station attendant being like, "Where are you going?" They're like, "We're going here," and they're like, "Oh, people don't normally go up there. You know about it?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're fine, we're good." And so they go off anyway. And while they're at this cabin, they begin telling kind of like ghost stories, basically. And in that way, it kind of works as like an anthology film, because you kind of get all of these people, and whenever they're telling the ghost stories, a lot of the actors who are like or the actors who are playing characters are also playing characters within the story. So it's like versions of themselves in the story acting out these stories. So you get about like 3 or 4 of those kind of like small tangential stories. And then you have the wraparound content of like this group of friends in this cabin, and you get some of their kind of like drama and conflicting dynamics. And then some of the people are like mad at other people because they keep like scaring them intentionally, and they don't want to be scared, and they're being kind of assholes about it, and all that type of stuff. So it's fine. Some of the stories are like fairly creepy. There's some kind of reminiscent of like old like folk tales, or like stories that you would read in like scary stories to tell in the dark or something like that. Most of them are kind of like slasher based. None of them are like too like supernaturally for the most part, but they're fairly well done. But some of them are also kind of like pointless and kind of boring, so it's kind of a mixed bag. What I do really like, this has like a really satisfying ending, which I think capped it off really nicely. So it kind of like left me on a higher high than I would have if it wouldn't have like ended as strongly. I would probably have been like, this is kind of like a few decent stories with like a few clunkers in it. But it left me on a high, and I was like, oh, that's a real fun ending to the film. And so I'm more like, this is good, not great. I probably said that about like 3 of like my 7 titles today, but like it's okay. Like I guess I'm very generous in this time of the year. It's like October, we're getting close to Halloween. These are vaguely spooky things, and I'm just like, I'm in the mood. I'm like, just entertain me. That's what I want. And this entertained me at least. And so this Blu-ray, it comes from a new 2K scan, and it says it's from a 2K scan, and the version of it is like a thought to be lost full version of the movie, which is about 2 hours. There was a theatrical cut, which was about 90 minutes, which was not given a 2K scan, but it is included in this. It's pretty rough. You can tell like the difference. So I'm going to talk about the 2K scan, but whenever I talk about it, I will just say in comparison to what the theatrical cut is, it's a lot better. But the theatrical cut, I will watch it and see the differences someday. I have not yet. I will prior to the review that I write. But the full length like original cut, what it should have been. The transfer has problems despite having a 2K scan. There's like a weird, like, kind of almost warping to the image. Sometimes it kind of presents itself as kind of like a shimmering light almost, but I think it's just like where some of the print was like faded or damaged. So it's kind of like almost looks like someone's like has like a mirror and is shining like sunlight on like aspects of like the print. It just kind of looks a little weird. It's not, doesn't completely take you out, but you're kind of just like, oh, that's some weird like lighting effects going on. Then there are also like some lines and like a little bit of like density fluctuations there and everything. So there's still, I think, some major issues with this, but I think this is probably a situation where the source material was like in such bad shape that you can just be kind of grateful that this is being released in high definition at all, and it still looks pretty solid, all things considered. In terms of special features, this has a 22-minute interview with one of the stars, and not really much else, but it's something at least. So I think Code Red did as well as they could with this title. It's not perfect, but it's good. It's a good release, and the movie is decent. So Screams of a Winter Night. I know probably didn't convince many people to check it out, but it's okay. I know if you're watching this video and you've made it to this point, you're probably a horror fiend, and I know you're probably going to check it out because you're at least curious.
Yeah, no, I mean, I am curious. I think I know it used to be streaming on Shutter too. So I might have to see if that is still the case, and maybe like a try before I buy situation.
Probably safe, yeah.
So I saved my best for last. I have to use all my muscle power to get this big hulking wonderful box set. Look at that.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, I was so excited for this. So okay, here is the all the films. So this is all 6 movies. And what's kind of nice is I have I give Paramount just a lot of huge props for not like just dumping a re-release of all 6 films. You do get this bonus disc where it is a really nice documentary on the making of the series, and it's pretty awesome. I really enjoyed that. I am a huge fan of this franchise. Have you seen these, or like
I've
maybe
seen
just
the first one. I need to catch up.
okay. Um, well, I would say depending on how much you like the first one, the other ones sort of like take that premise, and then I don't think this was ever intended, and please, if I'm wrong, chime in on the comments, but I just think that this was intended as a just standalone film, and then it just made like so much money that they sort of took some elements and sort of formed a mythos, like something overarching, which I actually really like. I know that there's some movies that are better than others. I really didn't like the last one. I'll be honest. I was super excited for, and it didn't really do it for me. Oh, you do get this like decal, and
Nice.
I think that's awesome. Yeah, it's really fun. Like they did not just like pull like this does have a little bit of extra stuff with it. Now as you can see, this is like there's no real like extras as far as like individually. Like this is the second one, so you can see like the back. So yeah, they're all kind of like that. But again, the bonus disc I think is well worth it. I only owned like a 3-pack with the trilogy, so it was nice to finally have like all of these because I did not like collect them past 3. So having the whole like set is awesome. Again, this is a really nice case. Um, I don't want to spoil it since you haven't watched the series, but this symbol is kind of important to the whole like mythos. I will just say I won't want to spoil it. I really love look at that. That is so cool. I like the just a lot of detail that like has gone into this. So I do really appreciate that fact. Again, um this series sort of varies for me in quality, but I think like it's a solid trilogy. And then I think like 4 and 5 kind of try to tie in this like made up mythos a little bit better. Ghost Dimension I think is maybe like a guilty pleasure for me. So yeah, it's fun. And like I said, this disc, this is definitely awesome, and I love how they included this with the set. So highly recommend this box set. It's great. I was like so excited to get this, and I'm a huge fan. I know that they Jason Blum on Twitter had teased a new one, a new paranormal activity coming out. So I'm excited for that. Just give me all of it. So yeah, that is my last title, and I think just best for last. It is definitely, I think, worth checking out and getting that box set.
Nice. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I know you said that there was 6 of them. Aren't there 7 films in that one, and then the new and also the documentary?
Oh,
Because
did I?
there's the exclusive from Paramount Plus
Oh
that came
yeah,
out
I'm
last
sorry.
year.
It is 7 films. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's exclusive to the box set for anyone who's
yeah.
missing out.
Yeah, no, I obviously cannot count today. Yeah, the seventh is the new one next
Okay.
in, which I don't recall if that got an individual release, home video
No,
release.
it's exclusive to the box set.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, then that's just another reason to get it because I didn't like Next of Kin, but I know there it does have its fans.
Mhm.
And so like this is sort of Amishy sort of a situation, which is weird because like um I grew up kind of around Amish and Mennonite,
Yeah.
which is such so weird. I mean, I know we talked about that in
Yeah.
what was that?
For richer or poor.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's kind of funny to see like horror movies that are like based around. I don't know if these are. I can't recall if they're actually like Amish or maybe they're like a branch of or supposed to be like related somehow.
Mhm.
But it's always funny. Like I have a friend who is like literally an Amish scholar, and like has literally a dozen books about the subject, and like he thinks this stuff's kind of hilarious. So,
Yeah.
anyways, but yeah, no, thank you for clarifying that because yeah, that also is definitely a big selling point.
Yeah. My final title. This is from Wild Eye Releasing, and this is Death to Metal. Whoops, almost dropped it. Which is another fun cover art here. So yeah, got a nice slipcase, a nice collector's edition with some special features. Uh, and this has this artwork underneath, some more hardcore art, and yeah, you get that has the same artwork on the disc, and then there's some it's not reversible art, but artwork underneath that you can kind of see a little bit here. Yeah. And then this also comes with a poster, which I will show you as soon as I get this back in this case. There we go. So this is not like the other artwork either. This is additional theatrical artwork. So
Nice.
different little poster here. Fold that down. So packaging wise, Wild Eye did a really nice job with this. I know they also have their Visual Vengeance series, which I've covered in the past, and they usually do a good job with like stacking their releases, either with special features or like nice packaging and everything like that. So I thought I'd check this out, and it is okay. There are issues with it. I always seem to, because the last Wild Eye release I talked about was that documentary that I really hated, the Acid King. So I don't want them to be like mad at me, but this one is better. I will say I didn't hate this movie. I would just say the acting is pretty atrocious. Like, it's very bad. It doesn't ruin the movie for me though. But because like, just I think there are certain movies where there is some really bad acting, but it kind of fits within the aesthetic and like heightened reality of the movie. And I think that's kind of the situation here. And as soon as I realized kind of what this movie was going for, I kind of like adjusted my expectations and kind of got into the groove of this. Because it's a really silly movie. It's basically, there's a priest who is just kind of like really like trying to convince people that the world is basically going to hell in a handbasket. Metal is like kind of the gateway to evil, all that type of stuff. And he ends up, I believe he dies, and I know he starts to go on a vendetta against, like, I think he becomes like an undead priest, and he goes on a vendetta against like metal music basically. So it involves like the main characters are like part of a band that are about to play this show in a bar, and it basically this priest is like going to try to like stop these people and like goes on a massacre. So it's just like full of like gore and metal music and like humor and like really dark humor, and it's just a really wild ride. It's a very short ride too. It's like 80 minutes, so it really kind of flies by. It doesn't try to like milk too much out of its premise. I think it knows that it kind of like has a small shelf life, but like it uses it well. And it's just kind of like one of those unhinged wild rides that you talked about earlier. Like, this is a film you want to gather a bunch of friends with and just like watch the insanity unfold and just like kind of make fun of it, but in a good way, and like just have a lot of fun with it. That's like this type of movie to a T, in my opinion. Especially if you have friends that are like metalheads, I think they'll really appreciate this. So overall, like I said, it's not a perfect movie by any means, but within the kind of weird heightened aesthetic that it's trying to work for, it's a pretty fun time. And Wild Eye did a nice job with it. It's a new movie, so like the transfer looks nice. It sounds good. It has like a couple behind the scenes videos, like a brief behind the scenes featurettes, some music videos, and just kind of like small special features here and there. So if you're a fan of this movie, or if you think it sounds fun, they did a nice job. Death to Metal. I like the cover art enough that I'd probably be like, probably want that on my shelf anyway. But like, it's a decent movie. But just be aware, the acting not good. So just be prepared. It's not good, but it's a fun movie at least.
Nice. Yeah, it was this shot on video, or was it?
No, I'm not good with shot on video films. This was an actual like professionally shot, like professionally HD camera. It is very low budget, but it looks, you wouldn't know it, but like it uses the budget it has well, and I think it's a really well shot film.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I guess that sort of wraps up our
We got
yep. And gosh, again, it's always fun, this time of year talking about some really great horror titles, and it seems like we've just had a nice wide range of them. Some bad, some pretty great, some so-so. So yeah, if you enjoy this content, definitely consider giving it a like and comment below. We're not doing a giveaway, but just if you want to chime in and let us know what titles we talked about that you enjoyed, we would love hearing from you. And As always, thanks for hanging out with us.